Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Greatest Salesman Podcast. My name is Dan McCormick. Another amazing episode upcoming today. Every Wednesday, I like to call it Wisdom Wednesday, 2 p.m. Pacific time. We go live right here on Facebook. We go live on YouTube. And of course, if you're new to the show, we love your live comments, your feedback, your chats, and perhaps you even have a copy of the book that we're going to be talking about today. And I could not be more thrilled to welcome all of you, especially if you're first timers and you're new to the show. We love your likes. We love your comments. We love your shares. And of course, we love your reviews. When you review the show on any of the podcast sites and or you review the show on thegreatestsalesman.com, Facebook, or YouTube, we love your reviews, of course. That's a big, big thing for us. And it's going to be an awful lot of fun here today. Of course, if you're new to the Greatest Salesman podcast, you may not know that 52 years ago, the great Og Mandino penned this amazing book, The Greatest Salesman in the World. And that's when none other than Rich DeVos of Amway Corporation stood on stage and held that book up and said, everyone ought to read this book. And that was the launching point, really. And Og established a way of writing, a philosophy of living, a philosophy for writing. And it has just been it was the first book ever put in my hand as a 19-year-old young man getting into the sales arena. And every single day since that time, I wake up with scroll number 2 in my mind. I will greet this day with love in my heart. And today I get to welcome into that hot seat called The Greatest Salesman. He's none other than the author of The Go-Giver. I believe, Bob, you and John David Mann penned that in 2007, 2008. Your book is an iconic. It's a classic. It's revered by so many people in so many ways. And I want to welcome you into the show. And how are you?
Thank you. I'm great. Thank you for those very kind words. What an honor to be on your show.
It's great to have you here. But I just have to say, if there's one goal that I have today, when I saw your bio from your assistant, says that the book has sold 975,000 copies. And I thought, what would we have to do to get that over 1 million copies? I just thought that would look great. That 1 million copies. You'd be all right with that, right, Bob?
Yeah, actually, there's about 10,000 more to go because that was written a little while ago, and we decided not to update it until it hit the million mark. So it's about 990,000 or so.
Oh, wow. I mean, that is obviously a very rare feat for an author. Congratulations. It is truly awesome to have you here. I can't wait to have lots of dialogue with you today, and grateful for our comments, people chiming in here from New York and Canada and Chicago and all over the world, and it's great. But Bob, as I like to do at the start of the show, you and I both know there's so many busy schedules, there's so many events and podcasts and Facebook Lives, etc. I love it when I can welcome someone into the show and just say, from the standpoint of your life, what are 3 things that have shaped your life or each and every day of your life?
Oh, well, sort of 2 questions there, because there are a number of things that have shaped my life. My parents, who, have been blessed to have, they certainly were the biggest shaper of my lives. And I was very fortunate, very blessed to be born to 2 wonderful people who instill in me the values that, I think eventually led to the Go-Giver and so forth. So that's certainly, another thing that shaped my life, not as much in a positive way, is having obsessive-compulsive disorder, OCD, and suffering from it from a very young age and all my life. But back when I was growing up, because I'm 63 now, that wasn't something that was even known back then. So I kind of grew up not knowing what this is. So that's been a big, that's been something that's affected me in my life very much. But when it comes to your question about, what do I do that influences me? And so I think there's only one thing you can do, and that is control your own attitude. And I think that's something that Mr. Mandino taught us all, through his writings and through his work and through his lessons. And so, there's a lot of things in life that can influence. If you look at influence as moving a person toward a certain thing. So there's many things that can influence us, but the only thing we have control of that allows us to influence ourselves is our attitude. And that's a choice.
Yeah, that is a great choice. And obviously, another title for one of Og's books, The Choice, right?
That's right. The choice. Yes.
You
Yeah.
actually had a chance to meet him a few times in your life, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I got to open for him a couple of times at at sales rally. Well, not sales rallies. It was more like just a personal development rally that a person was putting on, uh, and so I was I was the opening act because they were there to see Og Mandino. They weren't there to see little Bobby Berg, right? And I and so when I came off stage the first time, he said something like, "Wow, you're a tough act to follow." And of course, the tough act to follow, according to as opposed to Mr. Bandito. And but I thanked him; he was so very kind. But we did talk for a couple of minutes, and it turned out that we come from the same hometown. Natick, Massachusetts, which to me was just unbelievable. His was really the first book I read when I got into sales, and the first couple sales books were from Zig Ziglar and by Zig Ziglar and Tom Hopkins. But then when I began to read, when I realized that sales was much more, or success in sales, success in life was much more about building yourself on the inside, right, and success manifesting itself on the outside. I started to get the great books, all the How to Win Friends and Influence People, and Think and Grow Rich, and The Magic of Thinking Big, and As a Man Thinketh, and Psycho-Cybernetics, and all these great books. But the first of those books that I read was Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World. So getting to meet him, it's yeah, you're meeting an icon, and so that was a big thrill for me.
Yeah, that is
And that
really
was early, that was kind of only a few years after I started speaking. So I was still a young guy at the time, and
yeah.
it was actually about a year before Mr. Mandino passed.
Yeah, I was fortunate to meet him one time as well. It was a small meeting, about 100 people in Calgary, Alberta. My wife is from Calgary, and
Ah,
Achievers Unlimited, if I recall, was the motivational company that was putting it on, and maybe 100, 150 people. And like we talked about this morning, just one of those genuine, authentic gems. Just yeah, like you say, he's an icon. It's rarefied air.
yeah,
You mentioned so many amazing things. If I recall, he shares the story of how he had that moment in Cleveland, that moment of walking into the library, facing the pawn shop window a few minutes earlier. And then there's W. Clement Stone, and he comes to Massachusetts and becomes that insurance agent that takes on that tough territory, and then becomes the editor in chief of Success Magazine, which I eventually named my company after, Natural Success. And so it's been a favorite of mine, and it's an honor really to be an ambassador for the Og Mandino Company and talk about it. But do you recall when you first read it? I mean, I was a 19-year-old young man, so to me, I'll bet it took me 7 years to appreciate every aspect of the scrolls.
I was 25, 24, 25. I had to be yeah, had to be 25. And because that was my first year, I think, in sales, and that's when I read it. And no, I kind of it kind of hit me right away. I mean, I knew this was something very, very special. And it's funny when you talk about him going into the library, and John David Mann and I talk about that in Go Givers Sell More, the follow up to in fact, one of the characters in the Go Giver Leader, his name is Augustine, is one of the brothers, one of the two
Yeah,
brothers, and that's after Augustine Og Mandino. So that's
yeah,
just a little trivia thing for,
that's
but
beautiful.
yeah, but but you were talking about W. Clement Stone and the whole thing, and Og becoming the editor in chief of Success. So at one point, there was a guy who became a mentor of mine, Charlie Tremendous Jones, who you've heard
Oh,
of. Well, his book Life is Tremendous was basically discovered by Mr. Mandino, and he ran it, I think, serially in Success Magazine for a while, and that's how Charlie Tremendous Jones, a great insurance salesperson in his day, how he got really big time discovered in terms of the motivational circuit, if you will, for lack of a better word. It was because Mr. Mandino loved his book and publicized it.
truly one of the great names in all of public speaking, right? Charlie Tremendous Jones.
He
Can't
was
get much
amazing.
better.
Charlie Tremendous Jones, he was such a magnificent mentor to me and to everyone else who was just blessed to be a part of his life. And his daughter Tracy is carrying on his legacy, just as Tom Ziegler is carrying on his dad's legacy.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing to see these second generation people who are doing such a fantastic job of really taking their dad's works to a whole new level.
Indeed, indeed. In an era when connection is different than it was for them. I mean,
Mhm,
getting on an airplane every day for Og speaking in a different venue, or
mhm.
Zig, or Charlie Tremendous Jones, any of those guys, they're showing up everywhere. But let's see if I can ask my producer to put Ed Maluski's comment back up on the screen so you can see this, Bob. We talked about getting you to 1 million copies. Ed
Just bought
just
it.
bought it. One less to go.
Thanks. Now it's 990,001.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate that. Very, very kind.
I
I hope
told
you
you we
enjoy
had a
it.
great audience here. We got authors listening. Jim Packard's here. We got Ed. We got Colleen, Holly, and Tammy just said she's on scroll number 2 right now. So that's fantastic.
Awesome.
But let's talk about your book. Let's talk about where did the idea come from? Because I know John David Mann, great writer. Your ideas came together, and there's my Aunt Sue up on the screen right now. I'm trying to
Hi,
get
Aunt Sue.
everyone to watch today, Bob, because I said you're so good. So even my aunt's watching today.
Wow.
But let's go back.
You know you're a good promoter when your aunt is
Yeah,
watching. Hi, Aunt
exactly.
Sue.
Yeah, we got all the promotion. We're pulling them all out here. So when you guys get the idea for the book, The Go-Giver, how did it all come about for you? Because writing a book is one thing, but making it what you've made it is obviously a big task. It's something that's a lifelong pursuit of really what's inside of you, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And it's something you really dedicate yourself to. You believe in the message and you want to get the message out there. It really the idea formed many years ago. I had a book out in the mid 90s that since has been revised a couple of times, called Endless Referrals, and the subtitle is Network Your Everyday Contacts into Sales. And it was really a how-to book on for people who are entrepreneurs and salespeople who knew they had a great product or service. They knew it brought immense value to others, but they may not have felt comfortable going out into the marketplace, into their local areas, and cultivating the kind of relationships that would cause people to want to do business with them and want to refer them to others. So Endless Referrals was simply the how-to system. What is a system? Really, it's the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles, the key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired results of B, then you know that all you need to do is A and continue to do A and continue to do A. And eventually you'll get the desired results of B. And so it was a how-to system. But I'd always read parables, starting with Mr. Mandino's. I'd always read parables and always enjoyed them because I think stories connect on a deeper level than a traditional how-to book. Just because as human beings, it's how we relate to one another, and there's typically more of a heart-to-heart connection between the author and the reader and the message and so forth. So that's what I'd always found as a reader of parables, and I'd always enjoyed them. And I thought, what if we could take that idea and the basic premise of Endless Referrals being, which has sort of been my tagline, not tagline, it's not the right word, but probably the thing I've kind of most been known for over the last 30 years is the premise that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And so my question was, in taking Endless Referrals and in turning it into a parable, is, so what is the basic essence? What is the essence of that person, that entrepreneur, that salesperson, who can both quickly and sustainably create those know, like, and trust relationships? And it is that the essence is that they're givers. They're always looking to give value to others. And so coming up with the name, The Go-Giver, was easy. But the best thing I did for this book was to ask John David Mann, who at the time was the editor-in-chief of a magazine I used to write for. I used to have a monthly column for, was asking him to be the lead writer and storyteller. Because again, I'm a how-to guy. I'm step one, step two, step three. John, aside from being a great entrepreneur in his own right, John's a magnificent storyteller. He's a
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful writer. And back then, he wasn't as well known. Since The Go-Giver, he's now sort of the ghostwriter and co-author of choice when a publisher or an agent has a celebrity or a big business icon or an athlete that to write a book. John's the guy. John's the co-author of bestsellers. You've never even seen his name on it. I mean, that's how good. But he's now, he's so. But back then, very few people knew of his genius. Fortunately, I was one of them that did. So I asked John if he would be the co-author, lead writer. And fortunately, he said yes. And so we collaborated on it. It really only took a few months to write it, but it took us about a year and I think 25 rejections from New York publishers
Wow.
to finally find our perfect publishing partner. And that was Portfolio, a business division of business book division of Penguin Random House. And they have just been absolutely fantastic to work with.
That's a great story in and of itself. Andrea Waltz, the Go for No queen.
Love her and Richard. Yeah, they're
She was
such
on
great
9
people.
weeks ago with me or so. Just love her to death.
I love her parable. Talk about parables. Wow.
Exactly.
They wrote a brilliant one.
Brilliant, right? And she introduced us to you. But, in the whole Go for No kind of concept, you just said you got 25 rejections. Now, that's that I'm sure that there's stories like Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield could tell us that they had 1,000 or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
that's no small feat, 25 rejections.
No, but it's part of the game. And I think one of the things we always have to recognize in any entrepreneurial venture, in any sales position, is that no's are part of it. As Richard and Andrea say, yes is the destination, but no is how you get there. And I've often said that I think there are many salespeople or potential business builders that get knocked out of the business far too soon when they could have been fantastic. And they think it's because they got some no's and got discouraged. And I don't think that's actually it. I don't think it's the no's that knock people out. I think it's believing that you're the only person getting those no's. I think that's what does it. Because you go to these conferences and conventions and you see people walking across stage and they look great and they look confident and they look like they've just always right. And oh, well, they just got in and they just started and everybody said yes. But we know that's not true. Just the opposite. They've, filled up, as they say, their 5-gallon barrel of no's in order to get that quart of yeses. But the quart of yeses is what built their, caused their business to hit that level of success. That's magnificent. And so, I really think that, what I would love to see is for people to really do a better job of inoculating new salespeople or potential business builders by letting them know, you're gonna get mostly no's. You're gonna get mostly no's. It's just how it is. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it. That doesn't mean it's enjoyable. Let's not, let's deal in truth. And most of us would rather not receive a no. We'd rather receive a yes, of course. So it doesn't feel great to get a no. It's just part of it. And as long as you understand that, then, you're inoculated. Then when you get the no, you say, okay, well, I knew this was going to happen. Most people are going to say no. I don't have to like it, but that's just part of it. And if I want to walk across the stages, I need to be able to just take this no and move on.
Terrific analogy. For those that are joining in late and you're live on our show on Facebook and YouTube, he's Bob Burg. He's the author of The Go-Giver and many other books, of course. We can send you to burg.com, I believe is the website, burg.com, and you can find out all about his podcasts and his live Facebook, all kinds of different shows and books and programs. And Bob, it's great to have you here. One of the things that I love to do is I love to see what other people say about their review on your book. And I mean, it's just awesome because one says a book with great principles. And the word principle is so endearing to me because it truly means it's a strong channel moving you forward. So if that book, The Go Giver, is moving people forward in life, everybody don't buy one, buy 10, because you're going to want to give them out, because that's what the next review says. If I had the money, I'd buy a copy of this book and send it to every person I know, wrapped in gold foil paper. That's pretty special, Bob.
That's very nice.
People write great things, and when they
We
find
always
value in
appreciate it.
something, yeah. It's why I always tell people when I find a great book, don't buy one, don't read one, buy 10 and study it. It's an invaluable thing. So I know our time always goes so fast when we get people on these shows here, but Bob, I think there's 5. Now got my notes from several different pages mixed up here, but I believe you have 5 main things, and I'm going to encourage everyone to study the book. Creating value is major thing in the world that we live in today, because when we look at the online world that we're in, obviously we like to think that we can just give. You can't just go live and ask, right? You can't just take from everybody. You can't take, but you got to give, and creating value is a big beginning to the book.
Yeah, the premise of this book is very simple, and that is, and it hits upon what you're saying, and that is that shifting your focus, and I think this is really the key, shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more fulfilling way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. And not for some, way out there, woo-woo, magical, mystical type of reason. Not at all. When you're that person who can take your focus off yourself and place it on others, on helping them, on discovering what they need, what they want, what they desire, and helping them to get it, when you're focused on helping them solve their own challenges and problems, when you're focused on helping them get closer to happiness, right? People feel good about you. People want to get to know you. They like you. They trust you. They want to be in relationship with you. They they want to do business with you personally if you have what they need, but they definitely want to tell others about you and be your personal walking ambassador. So it's actually very, very rational and logical when you think about it. When we talk about value, the key is, because we say law number 1, the law of value is to give more is your true worth, in the business sense, of course. Your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. But that sounds counterintuitive when you first hear it. It sounds like you're not making a profit. No, absolutely, that is not what we need to understand. The difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another human being that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. Can I give a very quick example?
Of course.
If you were to hire an accountant to do your taxes and she charged you, we'll just name a round figure, $1,000. That's her price or fee, literally her price, $1,000. But what value does she give you in exchange? Well, through her hard work, her dedication, or getting to know you, or getting to her focus on what you're looking to accomplish, learning about your business. And she's able to save you $5,000 in taxes. She saves you countless hours of time, and she provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly, right? So she gave you actually well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 price. So you feel great about it. And she made a very healthy profit, which she should. In fact, in any free market-based exchange, and when I say free market, I simply mean no one is forced to do business with anyone else. In any free market-based exchange, there should always be at least 2 profits: the buyer profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than they were beforehand. But the reason this exchange took place is because she was not focused on her fee. She was focused on the value she was providing you. This is why John and I say that money is simply an echo of value.
Mm.
Right? It's the thunder, if you will, to values lightning, right? Just simply meaning the value comes first. The money you receive is a very natural result of the value you've provided.
It's a great example. I love that you asked me to take the time to do that because we could sit here and listen to your examples for a long time because that's why we have you
Thank
in the
you.
Greatest Salesman hot seat today.
Ah,
Almost at 1,000,000 copies sold. We got to keep getting one more, 10 more at a time. And if I could, Bob, let me just pause for a minute for those that will be listening on the podcast at a later date. Let me put up the little quick commercial if I could. On behalf of the Ogmandino Company, which has really been a services company, a coaching company, and Bob, you don't know this, but the company really drastically changed about 90 days ago when one of our clients happened to be a white hat hacker and literally showed us how to create a program to help all of these direct sellers, all of these entrepreneurs, all of these people that want to connect on Facebook be truly utilizing the principles that Og taught how to service and value other people. And so if people can go to habitfinder.com/social VIP, you can be given the curriculum of exactly how to make the algorithms work on Facebook, exactly when and why and how to post or not post, or to comment or not to comment. But it is an honor to be here on behalf of the Ogmandino Company and to recommend people go there, try that. And I know I've been talking to people this week from Europe to America to north of the border to south of the border. They've been using the program with great success. And so thank you so much, everybody, for being here today. He's Bob Burg. He's the co-author of The Go-Giver. He's got a Go-Giver podcast. And Bob, you touched on something here a minute ago, if I could. I think I mentioned it to you this morning that my wife actually had Stephen Covey as a professor in college. Kind of a unique guy to have as a professor.
oh my goodness, yeah.
Deep thinker, right? I had a chance to meet him a few times. And you just kind of described one of the 7 habits. And if I could, let's go back to Ada's comment here, if we could, Amanda, shifting focus from getting to giving. And you talked about that remuneration, price and value, giving and getting. And Covey liked to call it think win-win, right? If I've got a product or a service that I'm sharing with you, if the accounting story that you just shared is of value, that's thinking win-win, right? I'm going to pay her $1,000 all day long to save $5. And so I love that analogy. And that's kind of the second point, really. I think do you call it touching lives in the second point?
Yeah, which is based on law number 2, which is the law of compensation, which says your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. So where law number 1 says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number 2 tells us that the more people whose lives you touch with the exceptional value you provide, the more money with which you'll be rewarded. So your accountant in the first example did a great job of giving you more in value than she took in payment. If she's your accountant, you really appreciate her. You would use her again, and you'd probably refer her to others. Well, her other clients feel the same way. So our accountant is very quickly amassing an army of personal walking ambassadors singing her praises. And as she continues to add that kind of exceptional value to the lives of more and more people, her income will continue to grow and grow. So as Nicole, the CEO in the story, told Joe, the protege, law number 1, the law of value, represents your potential income. But law number 2, the law of compensation, that represents your actual income because it's all about impact. How many lives you're impacting with that exceptional value.
And, it's interesting in this day and age when we watch people go live and they do public demonstrations on Facebook and people just go and go and go and they just continue. It's interesting that the sales cycle in the world of direct selling that I've been with now for 38 years, the sales cycle is just different. You never know. I mean, when I first started, I went out because I didn't know anything. I'm 19 years old and I just figured, hey, you look like you got 20 extra pounds you could lose there, Grandpa. You better buy my product from me. I wasn't too skilled. Today, you just try to give that value. You try to present publicly, and you might have 100 people watching, 1,000 people, whatever, or they'll like it, or they won't comment, or they will comment. And then you see them at the ball game and they say, hey, tell me about that skincare product or that weight loss product or whatever. So the sales cycle is different now too, because when you go live on Facebook, you got obviously creating value sometimes that you never know you're giving.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. And the neat thing is once you meet that person, you can always, in a very gentle and consistent way, you can follow up and follow through in order to build that relationship, both in person and online. And that's one of the great things about online these days, because we can actually touch more people's lives than we ever thought, and we can actually build really good relationships. It all just comes down to asking yourself that question before you do anything: is what I'm about to do or say or what have you, is it going to add value to this other person's life? And one of the key questions I think we always have to ask ourselves is, more of a more than a question, it's really an understanding. It's understanding that value is always in the eyes of the beholder. It's not what we think is of value or what we think they should think is of value. It's what they think is of value. And I say, well, how do you know? Well, you need to discover. You need to ask. You need to observe, because we all come at the world, as we all come at the world from different belief systems, if you will, a certain way of looking at the world. Okay, we see the world through our own unique lens. I call it our belief systems, or our unconscious operating system. Right? We think we're acting out of conscious choice and free will, when in a sense we're really acting from a matrix, if you inside a matrix that we don't even know has been created for us by everything from upbringing, environment, schooling, news media, right? And so we have to be aware of that, but also understand that as human beings, we tend to think that other people see the world basically the same way we do. Which makes sense when you think about it, because it's all we know. How could they see it any differently? That's why you hear people say things, oh, nobody would like that, or everyone loves that. And that's just not true. That's not true. We might, they might not. So we've always got to understand that when we think we're providing value to someone, well, are we? Or are we providing value based on what we would find to be of value? And I think when we approach it more this way, now we can be ready to kind of listen, and going back to Dr. Covey, right? Seeking first to understand before being understood. That's not always easy unless we really make the effort and stay conscious of it.
It's interesting you bring up that one. I recall hearing him say years ago that habit number 5 was the number 1 most requested seminar at his company. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. A real gift. The book of James teaches us that in the New Testament. Now, Bob, in the interview, in the intercourse between your assistant and me, I scheduled you for 30 minutes. Have we got a bonus question or 2 left?
Absolutely.
I'm looking at the comments and they're going, I got to go back and replay this. I got to share this. Great to hear Bob Burg today. So thank you for your time.
My pleasure. And Dan, when I was talking about the follow up and the follow through, if people go to Burg.com, if they subscribe, they're going to get and I think it's like 23, and it will come every few days or something. I really should know this, but it's like over 23. I think it's a series of 23 endless referrals videos that are all about 3 minutes each. And I actually will take you through how to just meet a person, and how to absolutely establish and cultivate that relationship with them through these videos. So do that. That's if you'd awesome. Like just an option for you.
I'm going to ask one of my favorite people that is always chiming in here to put that address up on the screen right now. If someone will just type in Burg.com, BURG.com, that way anyone that watches it later on Facebook and YouTube, they'll always see that. They can go there, Bob. And I got like 1 or 2 more questions, and I want to go back, if I can, when you first read the book, The Greatest Salesman. What you said, it hit you strongly right away. Parables often do that. There's Sharon. Thank you, Sharon, for putting that up there. parables often do that for us because they meet us where we are. And it's really powerful. I'm wondering, was there a single scroll at that 25-year-old Bob Burg that kind of said, for me, it was, I will greet this day with love in my heart because I didn't have love.
I love that one.
Yeah.
I love that one. And then, and I don't remember which scroll it was, and I apologize. It's just it has been so long since I've reread that. But it's where he talked about treating everyone as though that was going to be the last time you see them.
Hmm.
That made a huge difference for me.
Yeah.
But that entire book was just such a gem.
Yeah. It's a deep dive. I ask people to go back and reread just the story in the beginning so you can get a sense of Hafid and what he had to go through the sales cycle. It's
Yeah.
a brilliant, brilliant thing. So well, in closing, I guess let's talk about now, because the book has this, let's call it what, almost 13 years of brand, if you will. You've given so much to so many. You got so many people in here commenting. I just love reading the comments. I'm sure you will too later on.
Mhm. Thank you.
I'm wondering if you couldn't maybe just touch on one of the things you're working on now. You talked about a mentor program this morning when you and I were talking. Talk to us about what drives you today, if you will.
Yeah, well, it's 63 years old. Really, what drives me more than anything is just the legacy that I hope to leave. I mean, and so I think as we get older, that becomes more and more important. And so my business partner, Kathy Tajanel, who's absolutely brilliant, we've created and it'll be, I think, hopefully next week. It was supposed to have released a little while ago, but you know how it is with things; they usually take a little longer than we
Yeah,
think.
exactly.
And and so we've set up a private, what we call a private mentorship community, and it's called the Go Giver Success Alliance. And we're very excited. It will be. I really think it's going to start next week. That'll open for membership next week, and so it's going to be a
Terrific.
great opportunity to get together on a weekly basis with a whole lot of people, and it'll be daily too. And all people need is their smartphone, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's the most exciting thing right now that is being worked on.
Yeah, I think that's what gets me going every day about the Greatest Salesman, the book, and this the idea of the podcast of keeping it alive 52 years later and having a chance to talk about it. And so, Bob, I know that your book, we're going to pass that million. I just want you to make sure you let me know when you do, so I can put it out there on the pages. Let us know. I mean, maybe we can get everybody to buy 100 or 1,000 copies today and get you there, but that would be a tall ask. But just honored by you being here today. I'm going to encourage everyone to get the book. Don't buy one, buy 10. Don't read it, study it, highlight it, dog ear it, make it a part of your life and your journey. And I'm sure that Bob will love hearing your story about how the Go Giver impacted your sales career,
Always
your
love hearing that.
family, etc. So, Bob, anything you'd say to people tonight or today, wherever they may be listening in closing, that maybe haven't quite reached what they'd like to just yet in the world of sales?
I think back almost 40 years ago to when I had been in sales for a couple of years and had been doing fairly well. But I started work with another company, and I was selling a high ticket item, and I really had not gotten out of the gate well, and I was really in a slump. And the more I was in that slump, the more my focus turned inward to myself, which of course is the worst thing that we can ever do in
Yeah.
sales. And I remember coming back to the office one day after a missed selling appointment, a non-selling appointment. It wasn't supposed to be a non-selling appointment. It was supposed to be a selling appointment, but because of my own ineptness, and it didn't happen. But I remember coming back to the office that day, and I was just in the sales lounge or sales room, and one of the people there was a much older guy, and which is funny because when I say a much older guy, probably my age now, right? But back then,
Exactly.
he was a much older guy. He wasn't even in the sales department. I think he was an engineer or something, and he retired soon after. He was the kind of guy who we've all met at one time or another. Didn't say a whole lot, but whenever he did, it was always profound. And I think he saw me as sort of like Joe in the story, right? Who I would write about with John David Mann years and years later, that young, up and coming, aggressive, ambitious sales guy who, worked hard, but was very, very frustrated and not nearly reaching his potential. And he said to me, Berg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Berg, can I give you some advice? And I said, absolutely, please do. I need it. And he said, I'll never forget this. He said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target, he said, is serving others. Now, when you hit the target, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose. But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And that's when it hit me. That's when it hit me that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Great salesmanship is never about the products or the services or the opportunity, as important as those are. Great salesmanship is about the other person. It's about those people you choose to bring immense value to. It's about those people whose lives are better just because you are part of it. And I think when we approach sales that way, we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Truly. I don't want to add anything to that close because I know we have a lot of beautiful people that are commenting and taking down notes, and just a beautiful close. Thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Truly, as I shared with you this morning, I love the title. I'm a title. When I see a title, it's just riveting to me. I mean, just the go-giver. How do you not wake up every morning and try to give more, serve more? And that's just a beautiful. Thank you so much for the bonus time. And we look forward to getting feedback from people that have read it, that are rereading it, people that will step up into the mentor program, people that will continue to comment and share this beautiful podcast here today. So he's Bob Burg. He's the author of The Go-Giver. You can go to burg.com. I'm Dan McCormick, the ambassador to the Og Mandino Company, the greatest salesman in the world by Og Mandino. Another terrific podcast. Thank you, Bob. Have the greatest day of your life. I'm Dan McCormick. Back next week, everybody, for another riveting version of the Greatest Salesman podcast. Have the greatest day of your life, and bye for now.